The morning sun over the waterfront of Port Charles, New York, brings no warmth to the growing storm clouds hovering above its most prominent residents as Monday, August 17, 2026, unfolds. The small town on the banks of the Hudson River has long been the backdrop for high-stakes mob turf wars, intricate corporate betrayals, romantic betrayals, and deep-seated family vendetta, but the tension cascading through the halls of General Hospital and the surrounding estates reaches a critical fever pitch. At the center of this brewing maelstrom stands Sonny Corinthos, a man accustomed to holding absolute power over the shadowy underworld of upstate New York, now preparing his forces for an all-out battle that threatens to shatter the fragile peace he fought so desperately to establish. Down at the waterfront docks, where the gray fog lingers heavily over the cold water, the atmosphere is thick with anticipation. The silence is broken only by the rhythmic lapping of waves against the wooden pilings and the distant, echoing blast of a tugboat horn. Sonny stands near the edge of Pier 54, his dark tailored coat pulled tight against the damp morning breeze, his piercing eyes scanning the horizon as if expecting an immediate ambush. Beside him, his most trusted enforcer and lifelong brother-in-arms, Jason Morgan, remains stoic, his hands tucked deep into the pockets of his trademark leather jacket. The dynamic between these two men has always been the steel backbone of the Corinthos organization, yet subtle shifts in the wind suggest that even this impenetrable alliance is tested by recent turmoil. Sonny prepares to rally his soldiers and secure his boundaries, knowing that rival factions and opportunists are circling like vultures, waiting for the slightest sign of weakness in his armor. The stakes could not be higher, as any misstep in the coming hours risks exposing not just his territorial interests, but the safety of his children and the woman who continues to share his complicated world. Meanwhile, high above the city skyline in the sprawling, light-filled living room of the Metro Court penthouse, Carly Corinthos paces the polished hardwood floors with an anxious, relentless energy. The morning light streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across a room that has witnessed countless secret meetings, tearful confrontations, and desperate pacts. Carly's mind is racing, consumed by the overwhelming weight of the secrets she carries and the dangerous tightrope she walks between protecting her family and maintaining order within the mob structure. Her fiery demeanor, which has sustained her through decades of chaos, is pushed to its absolute limit. She knows that the delicate balance holding Port Charles together is on the verge of collapsing, and her fierce maternal instinct drives her to take matters into her own hands, regardless of the personal cost or the anger it might incite from those who think they know better. The friction between Carly and the key figures in her life is reaching an explosive tipping point. Jasper Jacks, whose relentless interference under the guise of paternal concern has long been a thorn in her side, finds himself squarely in the crosshairs of her relentless fury. Jax has spent years attempting to insulate their daughter, Josslyn, from the dark and deadly realities of the Corinthos empire, but his subtle maneuvers to manipulate circumstances behind the scenes have backed him into a treacherous corner. When Carly catches wind of his latest scheme, a duplicitous effort to gather incriminating leverage under the noble pretext of keeping their child safe, her rage burns with a white-hot intensity that threatens to incinerate whatever remaining goodwill existed between them. Standing toe-to-toe with Jax in a high-stakes standoff, Carly makes it abundantly clear that she will not tolerate being played, nor will she allow anyone to undermine the unified front she and Jason have built to face down the five families. As Jax desperately attempts to defend his actions, framing his betrayal as an act of desperation born from love, Carly turns to Jason, knowing that in the dangerous underworld of Port Charles, loyalty is non-negotiable. Jason, ever the pragmatic strategist, moves swiftly to neutralize the fallout. On a private line, Jason sends an unmistakable message across the city: there is no division, no daylight, and no power struggle to be exploited between himself and Carly. They speak with one voice and act with one mind when it comes to defending their empire against external threats. Yet, beneath Jason's cold, unflinching exterior lies a growing realization that the enemy is no longer just standing outside the gates. The lines between ally and adversary have blurred so completely that every phone call, every meeting, and every quiet promise carries the potential for catastrophic betrayal. Across town at the Quartermain mansion, where manicured lawns and historic grandeur usually project an image of untouchable upper-class stability, a very different kind of war is brewing. The sprawling estate, rich with history and decades of bitter familial infighting, is filled with an eerie silence that belies the explosive emotional drama unfolding inside its rooms. Drew Kane Quartermain, consumed by a fierce desire to protect his loved ones and assert his place within the family legacy, takes a firm, unyielding stance that sets off shockwaves through the household. Drew lays out a definitive plan regarding his daughter, Scout, and his nephew, Danny Morgan, taking active steps to enforce a strict boundary between the two teenagers. Drew's determination to keep Danny away from Scout stems from a deep, protective instinct, yet his heavy-handed approach sends emotional shockwaves through the younger generation. The fallout from Drew's decree is immediate and devastating for young Scout, who finds herself caught in the crossfire of adult rivalries and historical grievances. Overwhelmed by confusion and grief, Scout turns to her cousin Rocco Falconeri in a quiet, heartbreaking moment of vulnerability. Tucked away in a quiet corner of the estate away from the prying eyes of their elders, Scout confides in Rocco, pouring out her feelings of isolation and anger over being treated as a pawn in a game she never asked to play. Rocco listens with a maturity beyond his years, offering a compassionate ear as Scout struggles to process why the adults in her life seem intent on tearing apart the bonds that connect them. At the same time, the tension surrounding Drew escalates when Jason arrives at the Quartermain estate to intervene. The complex, troubled dynamic between the twin brothers has always been marked by unresolved trauma, competing identities, and profound misunderstanding. Standing in the grand foyer under the watchful portraits of Quartermain ancestors, Jason attempts to reason with Drew, urging him to see the destructive consequences of his authoritarian actions. Jason speaks with quiet authority, warning Drew that isolating the children and letting bitterness guide his choices will only drive a permanent wedge into the family. However, Drew is in no mood to take advice from a man whose life has been defined by violence and allegiance to the Corinthos mob. Their verbal face-off is charged with years of unspoken resentment, leaving both men deeply entrenched in their positions and setting the stage for an inevitable collision that could alter the Quartermain dynamic forever. Meanwhile, in the tranquil residential neighborhoods of Port Charles, the ongoing rift between Michael Corinthos and Willow Tate reaches a harrowing, toxic crescendo that leaves everyone in their orbit reeling. What was once considered one of the soap opera's most enduring and idyllic love stories has completely devolved into a bitter battleground of mistrust, accusation, and deep psychological warfare. Willow, driven to her emotional breaking point by a web of suspicion and mysterious circumstances, levels a devastating accusation directly at Michael. She accuses him of conspiring with his former girlfriend, Jacinda Bracken, in a cold, calculated plot to drug her, a claim so appalling that it threatens to instantly destroy whatever fragile hope remained for their reconciliation. Michael stands completely stunned by the sheer weight of Willow's accusation. He vehemently denies any involvement in such a despicable scheme, his voice shaking with a mixture of profound betrayal, heartbreak, and outrage. The accusations cut deeper than any physical blow, striking at the very core of his character and threatening his reputation, his custody rights, and his standing within the community. As the confrontation unfolds inside their living room, the atmosphere becomes suffocatingly tense. Willow's paranoia and fear conflict directly with Michael's desperate insistence on his innocence. The damage done in these heated moments is catastrophic, creating an emotional chasm so wide that even those who care for them most begin to lose faith in a peaceful resolution. Witnessing this unraveling from the margins are Rick Lansing and Trina Robinson, both of whom find themselves drawn into the chaotic wake of Michael and Willow's fractured marriage. Rick, ever the shrewd legal mind with a keen eye for leverage, watches the growing hostility with deep concern, calculating the legal and personal ramifications for everyone involved. Meanwhile, Trina, alongside the perceptive Gio Palmieri, steps forward to offer crucial support and intervention. Trina and Gio recognize that Michael is being backed into a corner by false assumptions and orchestrated deception, and they move decisively to help him navigate the surrounding web of lies. Trina's steadfast presence provides a much-needed anchor for Michael, giving him the strength to hold his ground even as the world around him appears to be falling apart piece by piece. As the morning progresses, the grand, imposing corridors of General Hospital become the backdrop for life-altering legal and personal drama. Within the stark, clinical environment where lives are saved and lost every day, Dr. Portia Robinson moves through the halls with a heavy heart and a mind burdened by intense inner conflict. Portia is grappling with the devastating fallout of a recent legal verdict concerning Curtis Ashford, a ruling so unexpected and severe that it threatens to shatter their family's future and upend everything they have built together. The sheer shock of the verdict reverberates through the medical staff and the community, leaving Curtis facing a reality that could alter his path forever. Portia's distress is palpable as she tries to maintain her professional composure while processing the weight of the court's decision. In a moment of quiet reflection near the hospital's outdoor terrace, Portia finds herself seeking solace and unexpected perspective from Ava Jerome Cassadine. Ava, a woman who has survived endless tragedy, heartbreak, and scandal, offers Portia an empathetic ear. Their heart-to-heart conversation turns to the complex, painful realities of dealing with troubled daughters and protecting the people they love from self-inflicted ruin. Portia listens closely, struck by the deep, personal experience evident in Ava's words. Despite their vastly different backgrounds and histories, the two women find a rare moment of mutual understanding amidst the chaos surrounding them. Yet, even as Portia searches for strength, the burden of the situation leaves her deeply conflicted. Curtis, receiving the stunning verdict, is forced to confront a future filled with uncertainty and potential loss. The emotional toll on both Curtis and Portia is immense, testing the boundaries of their marriage and forcing them to question whether their love is strong enough to survive the forces aligned against them. Every decision made in the coming hours carries immense weight, as one wrong move could destroy Curtis's chances of clearing his name and rebuilding his life. Elsewhere in the sprawling hospital complex, the high-stakes espionage and law enforcement plotlines that continually endanger Port Charles take center stage. Anna Devane, the former WSB director whose life has been defined by duty, danger, and relentless pursuit of justice, moves through the shadows with single-minded focus. Anna is setting a meticulous, dangerous trap, one designed to catch her enemies off guard and expose a conspiracy that has been quietly festering in the background. Her target is none other than Britt Westbourne, whose complex history and recent secretive actions have drawn Anna's sharp suspicion. Anna operates with calculated precision, carefully placing clues and manipulating circumstances to force Britt into a position where she must reveal her true motives. However, Britt is not easily outmaneuvered. Receiving unexpected encouragement from an unlikely source, Britt attempts to navigate the tightening net around her while seeking out Rocco Falconeri for answers of her own. The cat-and-mouse game between Anna and Britt adds a layer of heart-pounding suspense to the hospital's hallways, as both women understand that one slip-up could result in total ruin or physical danger. Simultaneously, Valentine Cassadine is quietly executing a master plan of his own, far removed from the immediate view of his rivals. Valentine, a master strategist whose motivations are almost always rooted in a fiercely protective love for his daughter, Charlotte Cassadine, spends his morning restructuring his life and business affairs. Valentine recognizes that the shifting power dynamics in Port Charles present both unprecedented danger and unique opportunity. His primary goal remains safeguarding Charlotte's future, ensuring that no matter how chaotic the turf wars or corporate battles become, she remains insulated from the fallout. Valentine's quiet, calculated moves behind the scenes signal that a major realignment of power is underway, one that will inevitably send shockwaves through the city's elite. As the morning hours draw to a close, the interconnected webs of drama, romance, power, and revenge in Port Charles have reached a critical point of no return. From Sonny's dangerous mob preparations on the docks to Carly's explosive showdown with Jax, from Drew's contentious family mandate to Michael and Willow's heartbreaking collapse, and from Curtis's life-altering verdict to Anna's deadly trap, Monday, August 17, 2026, sets in motion a chain of events that will redefine the landscape of General Hospital for months to come. The stage is set, the players are in position, and the secrets bubbling just beneath the surface are ready to explode. The late morning sun struggles through gathering storm clouds over Port Charles, casting long, dark shadows across the city and mirroring the intense conflict unfolding within the estate grounds and hospital corridors. At the Quartermain estate, the tension following Drew Kane's authoritarian mandate reaches a boiling point. Having firmly commanded that Danny Morgan stay away from Scout, Drew finds himself confronted by his twin brother, Jason Morgan. The grand foyer of the estate becomes an arena for an unyielding battle of wills. Jason warns Drew that his heavy-handed attempt to exert control over the children will only isolate Scout and drive a deeper, permanent divide into the family. Drew refuses to back down, harboring years of lingering resentment toward Jason's past and his lingering ties to the mob. As their words cut sharp and deep, the rift between the two brothers widens beyond immediate repair, leaving the future of the Quartermain family legacy hanging by a thread. Upstairs, far removed from the sharp harshness of the confrontation below, Scout seeks comfort from her cousin Rocco Falconeri. In the quiet sanctuary of the sitting room, Scout pours out her heartbreak, feeling used as a pawn in an adult power struggle she never asked to be part of. Rocco listens intently, stepping up as a steady pillar of emotional support for his cousin. Outside on the manicured grounds, the emotional fallout ripples further as Brooke Lynn Quartermain faces severe backlash and intense scrutiny from those around her. Burdened by her refusal to confess her own actions and own up to her secrets, Brooke Lynn finds herself isolated and under mounting fire from every corner of the family. Over at General Hospital, the fallout from Curtis Ashford's shocking legal verdict continues to shatter the peaceful facade of the medical center. With Curtis facing a devastating 10-year prison sentence following his guilty verdict for second-degree assault and battery, the emotional weight crushes those closest to him. Dr. Portia Robinson wanders the sterile corridors in a state of quiet despair, struggling to balance her medical responsibilities with the crushing reality facing her husband. Sensing Portia's overwhelming grief, Ava Jerome steps forward in an unexpected moment of genuine compassion. Finding a quiet bench on the hospital terrace, Ava and Portia share a heart-to-heart conversation. Drawing from her own turbulent past with her daughter Avery and her history of surviving personal tragedy, Ava offers Portia a grounded, realistic perspective on resilience and holding a family together through unimaginable ruin. In another wing of the hospital, high-stakes espionage and hidden agendas collide in a high-tension cat-and-mouse game. Anna Devane moves with practiced precision as she quietly sets a trap designed to expose secret motives and extract vital answers. Her target, Britt Westbourne, senses the net tightening around her. Under constant surveillance and pressure from Anna, Britt navigates the hospital hallways with extreme caution, attempting to reach out to Rocco for vital information before Anna forces a decisive confrontation. Meanwhile, Valentine Cassadine moves discreetly through the shadows, away from the prying eyes of hospital staff and federal agents. With the geopolitical and local landscapes shifting rapidly, Valentine spends his afternoon executing a comprehensive restructuring of his life, his assets, and his international connections. Driven solely by a fierce desire to guarantee a secure and protected future for his beloved daughter, Charlotte Cassadine, Valentine quietly shifts his vast resources across the globe, preparing for any potential fallout that could threaten his family. Across town, the toxic rift between Michael Corinthos and Willow Tate escalates into an all-out emotional war. Inside their living room, Willow levels a jaw-dropping accusation at Michael, asserting that he secretly conspired with his former girlfriend Jacinda Bracken to drug her. Michael is left completely stunned and deeply wounded by the sheer severity of the false claim. Observing the chaotic collapse of their marriage with a calculating eye, Rick Lansing steps into the fray, assessing the legal levers and potential leverage this explosive scandal creates. However, Michael is not entirely without allies. Trina Robinson and Gio Palmieri step up to offer unwavering support, intervening directly to help Michael untangle the web of lies and prove his innocence before his reputation and custody rights are destroyed forever. As afternoon approaches, Sonny Corinthos receives word of the growing chaos engulfing his family and allies. Standing firm on the waterfront docks, Sonny gathers his captains and issues a stern, uncompromising directive. Recognizing that rival families are watching for any sign of weakness during this wave of personal and legal turmoil, Sonny mobilizes his security detail and prepares his organization for an imminent battle to defend their territory and assert absolute control over Port Charles.